Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sunday Advanced Bible Study, 11th of May, 2025. Okay, we'll be reading out of the book of Habakkuk today. We'll read those chapters. There's 3 chapters. We'll read those and break them down. Okay, you go to our YouTube channel, the Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos that you can look at, examine them, and get the meat out, the truth, connect some dots, and these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures. Okay, if you like what you're hearing and receiving on the channel through the videos, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay. For those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, and the Torah being the first 5 books that was given to Moses by our Redeemer and our Savior, the Lord of hosts. Okay, this channel was created to aid and assist Hebrew Israelites who are waking up in these last days to their true identity. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Sunday Advanced Bible Study. We're gonna do our normal, which is a moment of silence, a prayer, Psalms. We have some current events, need to know information. Then we'll open it up for some Q&A, and then we have some dialogue. Because there's so much going on, I got a few videos that I'll play the information, then we'll talk about it. And then, like I said, we'll read the book of Habakkuk. It's only 3 chapters. And to break the chapters down. Then we'll do pick a scripture and we'll close out. So with that being said, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts. Okay, let me see what I'm doing. Yeah, this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts, and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we thank you for your great mercy and your great power and wisdom, and we tarry waiting for your powerful deliverance of your people, Israel. Oh Lord, you have given us insight into the scriptures of our forefathers, and you, oh Lord, has directed us to who you are and your role in the going on of heaven and earth. And when we come this day, doubtless that you will appear and that you will gather your nation from among these wicked Gentiles. Oh Lord, you spoke through your prophet Isaiah and said that you would help Abraham's seed that you have scattered. You have completed that promise as of this day. And you said, oh Lord, that you would remove darkness from around us. Tarry not, oh Lord, for the latter days are here, and we are waiting and watching for you. Peace be unto you. Okay. So let me read a song right quick. Okay. Okay, I'll read 108. Psalm 108 is Israel looks to God for help. It's a Psalm of David. It says, oh God, my heart is fixed, and I will sing and give praise even with all my glory. Awake, pastries, and heart, and I myself will wait early. I will praise thee, O Lord, among the people, and I will sing praises unto thee among the nations. For thy mercy is great above the heavens, and thy truth reacheth unto the clouds. Be thou exalted, O God, above the heavens, and thy glory above the earth, that thy beloved may be delivered. Save with thy right hand, and answer me. God has spoken in his holiness. I will rejoice. I will divide Shechem and mete out the valley of Sukkot. Gilead is mine. Manasseh is mine. Ephraim also is the strength of my hand. Judah is my lawgiver. Moab is my washpot. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe. Over Philistia will I triumph. Who into the strong city and will lead me into Edom? Will not thou, O God, who has cast us off, and will not thou, O God, go forth without our host. Give us help from trouble, and for vain is the help of man. Through God we shall do valiantly, for it is he that shall tread down our enemies. So that was 108, Psalms 108. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about on the men's line, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday morning on the Shabbat, was that everybody is looking at everywhere else but to deal with the Lord. Lord, I hope that was with us from the beginning. And it's no wonder that it's David that's doing this. But anyway, we see in verse 10 through 13, David says, who will bring me, David, me into the strong city, into Jerusalem, and who will lead me into Edom? Will not thou, O God, who has cast us off, and wilt not thou, O God, go forth with our host? Give us help from trouble, for vain is the help of man. That's what they not understanding. Vain is the help of man. 13, through God, through the Lord of hosts, right? We shall do valiantly, for he it is that shall tread down our enemies. Okay? Not Pan-Africanism. It's him. He's telling us, it's me. I'm the one that's going to play. That's who was there the whole time. Egypt. The Syrians showed up at our gates. Okay? He was there. And that's what we got away from. Okay? So, any comments or questions on that? Everybody good? Okay. So with that being said, we're gonna go into our current events. Play this and then close it out. I'll play it and then we'll talk about it. Okay. Let me see what's going on.
Upload any story, you'll be the first one. Hello, welcome back to Van TV Media, guys. If you're new, please just
So I don't know if anybody know about it, but it's a lot of calls people going out to
consider subscribing to the channel and turn on the notification bell so that in case we do upload any story, you'll be the first one to view. Thank you guys for those people who are assisting this channel to grow the way it is going now. We are going to USA, whereby Donald Trump risk impeachment. We've seen several motions have been applied to Donald Trump for impeachment, and we've seen some people reacting on the impeachment motion of Donald Trump, so that we have realized that Donald Trump is risking impeachment. However, there are so many allegations and there are so many things that Trump has done to people of America. They were expecting something, but for now, they are receiving what they were not expecting from Donald Trump since he came into as the leader of United States. Just listen to these clips and we'll proceed on the story of the impeachment motion.
Hello and welcome to Van TV Media. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
For immigrants from the Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, and even to Libya, a country still recovering from civil war, and a nation that literally has an open slave market that detained immigrants oftentimes end up getting sold into. But that's not even it. When these immigrants refuse to agree to deportation to the country that they've never been to before in their lives, ICE handcuff them and place them into solitary confinement. Is this the America that you really want?
Hey community, we're back with an exciting update. Following a recent May Day of Action, over 500,000 people have signed on to impeach Trump again.
On May Day, we partnered with Citizens Impeachment for the National Day of Action, where we reached out to hundreds of thousands of grassroots supporters, calling on Congress to immediately impeach and remove Donald Trump from office.
Recent polling data from ASO Communications and Research Collaborative shows that just a few months into Trump's return to the White House, 52% of likely voters across the ideological spectrum somewhat or strongly support impeaching him, including 84% of Democrats, 55% of independents, and 20% of his fellow Republicans.
16 members of Congress are now on the record in support of impeaching President Trump. Representative Al Green of Texas has pledged to introduce articles of impeachment, and on May 1st, Representative Sri Thanedar of Michigan introduced impeachment articles of his own.
Since Inauguration Day, our team of experienced and passionate constitutional lawyers has documented a growing list of abuses of power President Trump has already committed. In our last video, we shared these impeachable offenses, and since then, the list has grown significantly. Some of which include illegal kidnapping, detention, and unconstitutional removal of U.S. residents, migrants, and asylum seekers to foreign prisons, unlawfully attempting to deport immigrants for peacefully protesting, and planning the forced removal of Palestinians from Gaza.
As our campaign director, Alexandra Flores-Quilty, stated, it's up to Congress to do their job, defend the Constitution, and impeach and remove Donald Trump from office for his grave abuse of power.
Let's continue to build a community of Americans who believe in truth and justice, because we, the people, have the power. Sign the petition to immediately impeach and remove Trump at impeachtrump.org and spread the word, because it takes...
Impeach Donald Trump, yes or no?
Yes.
So, yes or no, impeach Donald Trump?
Of course. Yes.
Impeach Donald Trump, yes or no?
Oh, hell yes.
Impeach Donald Trump?
Absolutely.
Impeach Donald Trump, yes or no?
I don't know if it's possible. I mean, they can try, but I believe that they should have ended this. I ain't gonna lie.
Donald Trump is now arresting a federal judge who disagrees with his immigration policy. Not only is this illegal, but it's happening at the same time that Donald Trump is defying a 9-0 court order. The law is time that he's disappearing people without due process, a violation of the Constitution, a violation of the law. Make no mistake, Donald Trump is breaking the law at the same time that he's breaking the law further by arresting federal judges. This is a complete and utter meltdown of the checks and balances to protect us from being an authoritarian regime. Now is the time, America. To be honest, of course, the time was a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, last November. But now, if you are not feeling with fervor the desire to defend your country, to defend the promise of what you can be, then you are no longer part of this American experiment. Call your senators, call your reps, knock on their doors at their offices, and only one word should be on our lips: impeach.
Donald Trump is far and away.
Okay, any comments on that? Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom, everyone. No, sir, I haven't heard it yet.
Okay, anybody else?
No, sir. How old is that? Is that a new message?
That's 1 day ago.
Thank you. I haven't heard it.
Right. So the video is shockwaves across the land as Trump faces fresh impeachment charge. Okay, here we go. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Well, right now, America is staring down a new threat coming from the top, because the Trump administration now wants to suspend habeas corpus. There is a lot of pushback already before he even puts this thing underway. A lot of pushback. I want to share with you all the whole details of what he is trying to do, what habeas corpus is, how it could affect American people, even though there are claims that he's trying to use this to control immigration. But once it's suspended, could he then use it to control the American population? So anyway, I want you to take a listen at this report. And of course, you know, I will be right back.
The Trump administration is considering suspending habeas corpus, a fundamental constitutional right that allows individuals to challenge their detention in court. This move is part of broader efforts to speed up deportations and reduce judicial intervention in immigration cases. Understanding habeas corpus. Habeas corpus, meaning you shall have the body in Latin, ensures that no individual is imprisoned unlawfully. It allows detainees before a judge to determine if their detention is legally justified. The principle is deeply ingrained in American legal tradition and has been suspended only a few times in U.S. history, most notably during the Civil War, Reconstruction, and World War II. Presidential authority versus power. The U.S. Constitution explicitly states in Article 9 that habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless, when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. Crucially, this provision is found in Article 1, which outlines the powers of Congress, indicating that only Congress holds the authority to suspend habeas corpus. Despite this, some officials in the Trump administration, including senior advisor Stephen Miller, have argued that the U.S. is facing an invasion of undocumented immigrants, which could justify a suspension. However, many legal scholars strongly disagree, pointing out that immigration does not meet the constitutional threshold for an invasion. If the administration attempts to suspend habeas corpus unilaterally, legal experts anticipate major court battles challenging the legality of such a move. Historical context. The U.S. government has suspended habeas corpus on 4 notable occasions. The Civil War, 1861-1863. President Abraham Lincoln initially suspended habeas corpus, but Chief Justice Roger Taney ruled that only Congress had the power to do so. Congress later authorized Lincoln's suspension in 1863. Reconstruction, 1871. Congress suspended habeas corpus in parts of South Carolina to combat Ku Klux Klan violence. The Philippines, 1905. The government suspended habeas corpus during an insurrection in 2 provinces. World War II, 1941. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, habeas corpus was suspended in Hawaii. Legal and political consequences. If the Trump administration moves forward with suspending habeas corpus without congressional approval, legal experts predict swift legal challenges. Courts would need to determine whether undocumented immigration constitutes an invasion under constitutional law. If the judiciary rules against the administration, any attempt to bypass judicial oversight could lead to a constitutional crisis. Beyond legal concerns, suspending habeas corpus would significantly impact civil liberties, limiting detainees' ability to challenge their imprisonment. Historically, such suspensions have been justified under extreme national emergencies, making any attempt to invoke it for immigration highly controversial. If the Trump administration were to suspend habeas corpus and apply it to American citizens, it would have severe legal and constitutional consequences. Habeas corpus is a fundamental safeguard against unlawful detention, and its suspension would mean that individuals could be imprisoned indefinitely without the right to challenge their detention in court.
Okay, any feedback on that? Sound like Pastor Manning to me. Any comments on that?
Shalom. That's probably part of him wanting to open up Alcatraz again so he can call that habeas corpus suspension just to place a lot in prison and then have them transported over to that prison that he wants to put them in.
Okay, anybody else?
Shalom. Brother Leonard, I also think that it's like you said with Pastor Manning, because then, like you said, that's giving them, like Pastor Manning saying, that's giving them the right to lock us up, to go ahead and round people up.
Right, he set the stage for it.
Right, yes, sir.
Exactly. Right, everything you're doing now, it's like it's directly pointed toward us. It means if you're paying attention, you can see everything is directed toward us. Okay, they're doing something else, but it's all directed toward us. Okay. Anybody else got anything on that? So here goes some need to know information.
Over the last 400 years is absolutely huge. We are trying to pave a way and trying to be part of a campaign to persuade bigger institutions, the government, and maybe even the royal family to apologise and to engage in reparative negotiations.
Hey there, Breakdown family. There is a wound that's never really healed. Across the Black world, from Ghana to Grenada, from Jamaica to Jackson, Mississippi, our communities still feel the weight of a crime that was never fully acknowledged, never fully repaired, and never truly atoned for. We're talking about slavery, colonialism, exploitation. You see, generations where wealth was extracted, and while the chains may have come off, the systems built on our suffering, they're still standing, and they're still costing our communities. For years, Black leaders have been calling for reparations, demanding justice. And for years, the response from colonial powers has been silence, crickets, no real compensation, just carefully worded statements and symbolic gestures. But something happened recently that cracked open a new kind of conversation. Because for the first time, the descendants of slave owners, people whose families built their wealth on the back of slaves, stood before the United Nations and said, this was wrong. We benefited from it. And now it's time to make it right. Not behind closed doors, not in whispers, but in front of the entire world. This wasn't just an apology. It was a challenge, a turning point, a moment that said, maybe, just maybe, this fight isn't ours to carry alone anymore. So today on The Breakdown, we're unpacking what's happening, what it means, what it could lead to, and why we still have to stay sharp. Yes, because symbolic acts without structural change, without real impact, real results are not enough. But if this is the start of something real, then we need to pay attention and we need to keep pushing. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to be a part of something bigger. See, here at TV, we're building more than we're creating a global home for Black stories that are told with truth, intention, and power. And if that speaks to you, hit subscribe, tap the bell, drop a and consider joining our membership community where you will get exclusive videos and behind-the-scenes conversations and to be a part of the dialogue shaping our future. This isn't just content, no, it's a movement, and I'd love for you to be a part of it. All right, now let's get into it. So to understand the power of what happened at the UN, you have to understand who is speaking and what they represent. Charlie Gladstone is the 19th great-grandson of 19th century British Prime Minister William Gladstone. He said he discovered about 7 years ago that William Gladstone's father, Sir John Gladstone, was one of the largest slave owners in the British West Indies. In fact, he was the single largest payout from Britain's slavery compensation scheme.
It is with deep shame and regret that we acknowledge our ancestors' involvement in this crime, and with heartfelt sincerity that we apologise to the descendants of the enslaved in Guyana.
And former BBC journalist Laura Trevelyan said she learned after records of Britain's Slave Compensation Commission were put online in 2013 that one of her ancestors, Sir John Trevelyan, owned sugarcane plantations in Grenada and about 1,000 enslaved people.
Yeah, so what happened is in 2013 in Britain, University College London published a database which showed the compensation which was paid to all of the people who owned slaves when slavery was abolished in Britain in 1833, which might seem like a head scratcher. Why did the owners of the enslaved get compensation and not the enslaved? But the answer is that was the only way that Britain could get abolition through Parliament, where there were many lawmakers who were themselves plantation owners in the West Indies. So this database of the 46,000 individuals who were paid compensation in 1834, the year after abolition, was published online in 2013, and immediately the database crashed. You know, people logged into it. They couldn't stand the volume, as you can imagine. And then in about 2016, somebody in my family who had idly typed Trevelyan into this database emailed me, because I was supposed to be the family historian. I had written a book in 2006 about family history, which, by the way, had nothing of this in it because I didn't know. And this cousin emailed and said, "Oh my gosh, Laura, you won't believe it. Do you know that it says in the database that the Trevelyans got compensation for 6 different plantations in Grenada, and that we owned more than 1,000 slaves at the time of abolition? Did you know that?" And I said, "No, I had no idea." And this cousin said, I'm shocked, I'm appalled. This has changed my whole vision of our family. It's terrible. What do you think?"
And now, for the first time, both Charlie and Laura sat with the descendants of enslaved people in former British colonies in the Caribbean at the same table at the United Nations, with diplomats and experts from those nations discussing the need for reparation. Now, Laura raises a point that we still grapple with today. When slavery was abolished, it wasn't the enslaved, it wasn't the slave owners, but rather the enslavers who were compensated. That's right. The British government paid out the equivalent of billions in today's dollars to the people who owned human beings for reparations. That money, it helped build mansions, businesses, and generational wealth. It helped shape the British elite. And some of that wealth, well, it landed directly in the pockets of the Trevelyan and Gladstone families.
And then I thought, you know, this is shocking and it's appalling. And then I thought, you know, that's a real story there for some point. You know, Nora Ephron, the American screenwriter, said that all life is copy. And so I thought, this is a story that someday I have to look at it, I have to think about it. And then came 2020, and you know, that summer, and living here in New York City, covering Black Lives Matter, the reaction to the death of George Floyd, so many protests right here in Brooklyn where I live. And then I really was forced to think that if a legacy of slavery in America is police violence towards Black men, then what does this mean that my family, my ancestors, were slave owners in Grenada, not that far from where I am now?
Laura spent decades as a journalist at the BBC, but after learning the full truth of her family's history, plantations in Grenada, nearly 1,000 people enslaved, she wanted more. She said, "I can't just report news anymore. I have to be part of sharing the harm." So she pitched her story to the BBC team, picked up a camera, and set up to Grenada to tell this story.
And that this was something that was worth doing. And my commissioning editor at the BBC, Hugh Levinson, said, "You know, Laura, if you go, we're going to send you, you have to ask the question, should I pay reparations? You know, you can't go unless you damn well ask that question of everyone you meet in Grenada." And so then I got to go with a fantastic young Haitian-American producer, Coralie Barreau, herself a descendant of the enslaved in Haiti. And so we went on this journey together to Grenada last year.
What was it? What went through your mind? What was it like?
Really extraordinary. The first thing that we did was land and go to Beausejour, which is one of the largest former sugarcane plantations on the island. A beautiful location with a huge plantation house. It's not the original house, but it looks like something from the movies, what you would think a sugarcane plantation would look like, with a huge house on the hill, these sloping hills, ancient buildings where the sugarcane factories were. And I looked at this place, which was once so beautiful and so terrible, and I felt a shiver going down my spine. And you could just imagine the picture with the slave master in the big house with the enslaved at the bottom of these slopes. And it was so hot, Michelle, so hot. And just thinking of people toiling away and the machetes. And I met there DC Campbell, who's a Grenadian historian, lives in the US now. And I met DC there, and he said, "You know, Laura, think of it. here we are in Beausejour, me a descendant of the enslaved and you a descendant of slave owners. Think of that.
Okay, any comments on that? What do you think? First thing I thought about was I'm always going to First Ezra when Cyrus said that the Lord God of heaven have charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, like the Israelites in captivity in Babylon. And then he also changed his mind. He says he hardened the heart of Pharaoh. So this right here is what I mean about counting the Lord of hosts out. So look how easy this is. He turning the very ones that got all the money from our enslavement. Now he turning their hearts. They're going in front of the unions and saying that it was wrong. That's major. Can't nobody else do that. So like I said before, these people that concocted the end time event with the revelations and the Most High God, the end time prophecies that He have, and then now we starting to see His power superseding what they got going on, and what He already prophesied. We can see is being superseded. This right here don't even make no sense. Why would they all of a sudden now they out in the public broadcasting that everything that was done to us during slavery was wrong? The very people that got the money that benefited. Okay, that's something. Okay. So with that being said, I open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about anything from yesterday from the men's line, women's line? Anybody got anything they want to talk about? Okay, like
Shalom,
I said, I
everyone.
had. Okay.
Go ahead, Brother AJ. You had something?
Go ahead. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Shalom. Excuse me. I was just gonna ask Brother Leonard to what you were just saying. I can't find the scripture, but I thought I read a scripture that said like the wicked children, the wicked seed gonna be ashamed of their own people. Like,
Right. Yeah,
I
did
can't
say
find
that.
the scripture though, but
Right, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Exactly. Yeah, we'll find it. We'll walk it down.
yes, sir.
Then, yeah. You got something to say?
Shalom. Yes, sir. I was just going to do a little recap of what you talked about yesterday concerning the prison Donald Trump was opening up, and also off the video you played earlier. I was doing some research on that. So not only does he want to reopen Alcatraz and the Dublin facility, which is in California, where they were, which was a women's prison. That Dublin prison was a women's prison, and they ended up closing that after, a lot of lawsuits were filed for them, raping the women there.
Right.
So he's also wanting to reopen Lake Correctional Facility in Lake County, Michigan.
Okay.
Which was one of the largest prisons in that area for teenage boys. That was closed in 2022. So most of these facilities that he's wanting to deal with, he's wanting to, reopen them. They were closed for a number of reasons. The government ended up closing them down, and a lot of them were closed down when Biden was in office.
Okay.
There's one in Newark, New Jersey, which is the Delaney Hall facility.
Right.
Midwest Regional Reception Center, which Leavenworth, Kansas, that was closed in 2021. And the
Right.
federal judge that closed that called that facility a hellhole.
Okay.
On top of that, he has already sent a lot of the immigration detainees to a lot of federal facilities, which is BOP, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, in Miami, Philadelphia, Berlin, New Hampshire, and FCI, Atlanta. These prisons, the use of shuttered prison is just one way ICE is expanding detentions for Trump's mass deportations. He has also moved immigration detainees into BOP facilities, currently housing criminal defendants that already maxed out, causing concerns about poor conditions, rights violations, which we know they're not getting due process, and a lack of basic resources as staff managed multiple populations under one roof. Trump has also pushed to expand local jail contracts and use of military bases for ICE. So we can look for that too. We know that this is a continuing pattern of Trump's administration's willingness to knowingly place immigrants in detention facilities already well known for having dangerous conditions. They're putting people in these facilities where the conditions are so dire that people simply give up their valid claims or relief to stay in the United States. So these facilities have gotten so bad and is bad that the immigrants just say, "I'll leave," versus to stay in those conditions in those prisons. Shalom.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So when you look at everything that they doing, you know what I'm saying? You can see where they headed. They have a prison over in here close by where I'm at. They said they closed it down called Phelps, but every time you pass by there, they said it was closed, but the light stayed on, and they had a skeleton crew there. So that didn't make sense to me. And so if they did it right there, they probably was at those other places too.
Right, exactly.
And then, like they said, with those Walmarts, all those Walmarts they closed. They wasn't closed. They had guards, security guards, and all that there. They still the building was still being operated. You know what I'm saying? So they, like you said, they got a 50-year, which shouldn't be no coincidence. They got 50 years ahead on us. They looking 50 years ahead than the whole rest of the world. So-called powers that be. So anyway, and then when you look at that about these prisons, look what they're doing in Atlanta with the cop city. That's
right.
That's go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. And then not only that, I don't know if anybody peeped it out or not, but what you think finna happen with all these people talking about impeaching Trump? You think he not finna attack them? And the cry is getting louder and louder. He already pissed off about when he lost the other election, and then when he rushed to White House. Mm-hmm. So they back again. One thing he can't handle is rejection. So what you think he's gonna do? Him and them nut buckets that he with that concocted 2025. Just think about it. He's been outright rejected, and they calling for him to impeach him. So there go your martial law and all that right there. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Anybody got comments? Okay.
Yes, sir. Shalom. With the impeachment that they're doing the protesting on, are the majority his kind of people, or are the ones who are indoctrinated?
No, it's people. It's all kind of people. Everybody. Even a lot of his own people that was with him. They didn't have no idea about their intentions, and now their intentions are out. They outright rejecting him because the intentions is all open now.
So the majority of them may be considered his kind of people. I mean, his people.
Well, it's all sorts of people in there. A lot of them is his, but a lot of them is just people that looking at what's going on and it's not American, and they rejecting it, rebuking it, and the cry is getting louder and louder, and the numbers getting bigger and bigger. So, like I said, when you understand him and people that he got around him, you can already see what's gonna happen. Look what they did at the White House. Okay. So anybody else got anything on that? Okay, like I said, there's so much stuff going on. So what I'm gonna do is, I got some videos. I'm gonna play a little bit of it, and then get some feedback on it. That way, you can put the information out there. Okay, this first one right here is, I don't know if anybody heard about it, but let me play it.
Such rampant corruption, in any normal world, it would dominate headlines for weeks. Donald Trump is poised to accept a $400 million gift from Qatar in the form of a luxury Boeing 747 jumbo jet, a plane so opulent it's known as a palace in the sky. And the kicker, after using it as Air Force One during his presidency, ownership is going to be transferred to the Trump Presidential Library Foundation before he leaves office. Simply put, a foreign government is giving the President of the United States a personal gift worth $400 million. This isn't some state gift that's going to remain government property. This is a gift that will ultimately become Donald Trump's personal property through his Presidential Library Foundation. This is quite literally the definition of foreign influence buying. And the timing here could not be more perfect, because days ago that Donald Trump's press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, had a full-blown fainting spell at the prospect of Donald Trump doing anything for his own personal benefit.
I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. He left a life of luxury and a life of running a very successful real estate empire for public service, not just once.
Like I said, if anybody been paying attention, everybody around him is delusional. So like I said, when Trump get rejected, this mega thing get rejected, like they doing, you already know what these nutbuckets gonna do.
But twice. And again, the American public reelected him back to this White House because they trust he acts in the best interest of our country and putting the American public first. This is a president who has actually lost money for being president of the United States. I don't remember these same type of questions being asked of my predecessor about a career politician who was clearly profiting off of this office. That is not what President Trump does. And this White House holds ourselves to the highest of ethical standards.
Quote, I think it's frankly ridiculous that anyone in this room would even suggest that President Trump is doing anything for his own benefit. Those were her exact words. Who wants to tell Leavitt that accepting a $400 million luxury jet from a foreign government that will eventually become your boss's personal property is the definition of doing something for his own personal benefit? And this isn't just any foreign government. This is Qatar, the same Qatar that has massive investments throughout the Middle East. The same Qatar that happens to be locked in intense competition with Saudi Arabia for influence in the region. The same Qatar that's going to be hosting Donald Trump next week for his first foreign visit of his second term, where his gift will officially be announced. But hey, I'm sure a $400 million plane to the President of the United States is not going to have any impact whatsoever. And so now the White House and the Justice Department are scrambling to explain why this somehow doesn't violate the Constitution's Emoluments Clause, which explicitly prohibits U.S. officials from accepting gifts from any king, prince, or foreign state. And their creative legal workaround, they're claiming it's totally fine because this gift is technically going to the Air Force first and then later to Trump's presidential library, not directly to Trump himself. See, as long as you can find a completely transparent loophole on tenuous at best legal ground, then you're A-okay. The dangerous part is that the bulwark against this kind of corruption is the Department of Justice. And yet, Attorney General Pam Bondi, herself a Trump loyalist who previously took campaign contributions from Donald Trump while deciding whether to investigate Trump University, surprise, surprise, she decided not to pursue charges, has conveniently decided that this arrangement is legally permissible. How about that? The lawyer who Trump himself paid off thinks it's fine for Donald Trump to accept money himself. Phew. This is the kind of transparently absurd legal rationale that would get laughed out of any first-year law school class. The Emoluments Clause exists precisely to prevent foreign governments from purchasing influence from American officials. The technical ownership structure does not change the fact that Qatar is giving a $400 million asset that will ultimately benefit Trump personally. And this isn't happening in isolation. Trump's cryptocurrency scheme has been revealed to be overwhelmingly purchased by foreign buyers. According to financial analysis, foreign investors have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into Trump's digital coins, meaning into his personal pocket. Yet another avenue for foreign governments and interests to funnel money directly to Donald Trump. And this has been a long-standing philosophy for the guy. Here's Jamie Raskin back in 2023, laying out Trump's overt corruption in a way that, frankly, quaint today.
During the Trump administration, we saw the development of a completely new public philosophy, which is that government is not an instrument of the common good and the public interest. Government is an instrument for private self-enrichment for the guy who gets in, for his family, for his private businesses. And that's a model that we're seeing all over the world.
But you don't approve of that model, obviously.
Yeah, I do not.
Denounce that model.
That's what Putin is doing.
Yeah.
That's what Orban is doing. That's what Marcos is doing. That's what El Sisi is doing. That's what
it's been going on since the dawn of mankind.
Well, but
okay. What you think? Anybody got any comments on that?
Shalom, everyone. Yes, sir. This is so blatantly put out there, and he's doing everything. Again, like you've always said, there are people. He's the puppet. There's some things behind that, and everything is just constantly being put out there for us to see, like it's like this is supposed to happen their way. But we all know this is a prophecy, and things are going to happen just like when you read Habakkuk, and the Lord of hosts does allow things to happen so that he'll turn those things back around. Shalom.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on that? Okay. Okay. So here we go right here. This video right here, Ibrahim Toure is on live TV in Russia. Okay, check it out.
In the three countries. Because as you know, from an economic standpoint, we are not at the same level. And from a military perspective, there are many aspects to consider. We need to try to balance things out. And so this requires the establishment of many structures and numerous meetings. And free movement requires a certain number of parameters to be put together. You must have seen that we did a lot of work to come up with, a single security document for travel and everything. So it's evolving and things.
So he exposing the U.S. and France on live Russian television. Let that from me.
Are going very well. I think they themselves contributed to diminishing their own influence because they have a paternal of our relationship. You see, whenever we do, every initiative we take, it's always about Russia. Someone speaks and they say they're influenced by Russia. Everything that happens, it's Russia. Why do they have their eyes closed like that? So Africans aren't capable of developing anything. Africans aren't capable of inventing, innovating, or taking initiatives. That's what we're fighting against. And look at their speech. Look at their speeches. Even the French president, always in his speeches, says that young Africans are influenced by Russia. It said, and if you listen to Western media, they spend all their time lying. And look today, the AES, which is a model that's starting to take shape, they can't go a single day without talking about Burkina or the AES. It's impossible for them. And every time they try to spread information, to divide, to manipulate the youth. But it doesn't work anymore. I think people are aware enough. Now people have their eyes open. Through communication, they managed to rewrite history. And as for African history, they schemed everything to spread lies. As a result, some young Africans don't even know the history of Africa or what Africa has accomplished. Some don't even know that our grandparents fought, were put on the front lines as cannon fodder. And when they returned, they were killed like animals. Do people know that when France tested its first atomic bomb, it was black soldiers they placed nearby in the blast radius to see what would happen? Let's bring out the archives. Everything they've used in Africa is terrible. So all of this needs to be communicated so that young Africans understand, because there are still many who are asleep and continue to speak on behalf of the imperialists. Whatever they're told to say, they do it. Maybe it's because, well, they're given something, I don't know. But Africans need to understand their history and wake up. So that's our fight as well. My biggest regret is having spent a good part of my youth listening to radio stations like RFI and France 24. I've been in countries where those radio stations were shut down. But we would use apps to record their news broadcasts so we could listen. But at some point, something clicked. I started to realize that they were conditioning our minds to accept what they wanted. It's their narrative that they want us to learn. And since then, I've started to see things for what they are. And I understood that what they're doing is very dangerous. And today, more than ever, I realize that they have conditioned the minds, especially of Africans. So
yeah, we did it over here too, the New Testament. So any comments on that? So that's Abraham Tory on live TV in Russia, exposing America and the history on America and France. Okay. Any comments on that? If you want to watch it, okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Trump not gonna like that. I'm sure he's already been alerted, as well as the general over AFRICOM.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you can imagine, like I said, what they probably turning over in their seats right now. So this is another something else that's going on. Like I said, there's so much going on, but here go another one right here. It's the AU. If you understand what the AU is, it's the African Union. So now they have an emergency meeting. They preparing an emergency meeting as we speak.
Felipe, thank you for all love and support. I appreciate you all. Africa, we say we want to be free, but we know, as Captain Brian Traore Rifle said, this freedom we are looking for will not come on a silver platter. We need a revolution. We have been wondering, why is it that when something has to do with Africa, that we need the African Union to come out and voice out? The African Union will always be silent. But when it is for it to be used against its kind, the same people that it is meant for, it is always quick in responding. According to this man, African Union was created in Ethiopia to circumvent the effort of Kwame Nkrumah unifying Africa. African Union was created to make sure whatsoever Yellow Papa is doing here will continue to happen. It has not been created to unify the African as we are seeing it. And the main reason for this is to suppress the African so that Yellow Papa will continue to move forward. And we had people in Africa who have agreed to do that.
The Organization of African Union created on May 25th, 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, was part of an effort to circumvent efforts by Kwame Nkrumah to build a single union of African states. And instead, they come up with an Organization of African Union that codified the colonial borders that were created by Europe in 1884 and 85. We have to be able to break out of this, but it's going to take revolution in order to do this. African revolution in order to do this. African revolution that will destroy imperialism and the world economy that's responsible for the growing evisceration of the masses of people around the world. Uhuru.
The last thing I want to say is that I believe sincerely, and I'll say it here today, that multi-party democracy has done nothing for this country. Since 1992, the only beneficiaries of the system is the political class, the professional class, the working class, the underclass have all been totally marginalized. It's as if you live in this country, your sense is not respected.
Right, so what you're looking at is, like I said, the beast system started when Israel was kicked out of their land way back in 143 BC, and now it's being exposed wholesale. So on this side of the pond, they got the Boule, the Divine Nine, and then on that side, they got the African Union. So they the same system over here, they got it over there. That's what's being destroyed and exposed. This is how they amassed all the wealth they had all this time, using these Negroes, sellouts. And like I said, we sit there and we look up to them because, like they did with Saul. They chose Saul, not the creator. And saw what Saul did. Okay, so these African Union got together, 54 Negroes against Tory. Okay, so let that permeate. So, and then the other thing is, this is the last thing I came across, and it's Ghana and Mali, these other countries that ran the French out and ran the United States out. They go tripling. That's another reason why they mad. But check it out. In 3 months.
Unity from Richmond's Media. My name has always been R6, and welcome to Richmond's Media, where we talk about politics, entertainment news, trending news, and what is happening around the world. Now, I chanced upon this news on X, formerly known as Twitter, where Ghana Gold Board is saying that in 4 months they have been able to generate almost $3 billion of gold. Gold. 3 billion gold in 4 months. So if you multiply it by 3, then we are going to get almost 10 billion of gold in a year.
The time has come for Africa to unashamedly take advantage of the natural resource endowment that God has given us.
Then to think of it, Ghana is always asking for money. It's always asking for aid, always asking for financial aid from this Western world. And this money is just coming out of gold. So imagine if we add our other exports like diamond, like timber, like oil, because Ghana we have oil, like cocoa. How much money do you think Ghana will be able to generate in a year? And this is a country where we are always going to IMF. We are always going to World Bank to ask for loans. So the question everyone is asking is, if Ghana has all these resources, why are they always asking for money?
The time has come for Africa to unashamedly take advantage of the natural resource endowment that God has given us.
Why are the officials always asking for financial aid from foreigners? Now, maybe you don't know why Ghana has been able to generate this amount of money.
I beg to move that the gold board.
Okay, so that's where all the turmoil coming from. So this, I'm always reading this Isaiah 60 when he says that arise and shine for the time has come. Then he says he's going to convert the forces of the Gentiles over to Israel. And you can see all this happening. And not only that, I noticed that 2 days ago, I think it was, they had like a 5.1 earthquake in Tennessee. And then I saw yesterday morning, they had 2 earthquakes in Texas. Anybody heard anything about that?
Shalom. That earthquake was also in Tennessee, was felt here in the Metro Atlanta, some parts of Metro Atlanta, in Georgia as well.
Ain't this something? Ain't this where they trying to put the police station at in Georgia?
Yeah, the Cop City, they call it.
Yeah, Cop City, right, yeah. Ain't that something? And then they got Elon Musk, he going to Texas, and now they got 2 earthquakes in Texas. Come on. So with that being said, If nobody have anything else on that, or anything to say or comments about it, we'll go to Habakkuk.
Shalom. I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you. I've been seeing stories that the United States have struck some deal in the Congo, which sounds ridiculous to me. About they're going to give the Congo is going to give minerals in exchange for security. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I think is that tied to Rwanda?
Yeah, I think Rwanda and somehow they're connected. But yeah, it was a story I just saw recently. But to me, it just sounds like an opportunity to have boots on the ground because I don't know about the geographical area, but I think they're close by
Right,
Burkina Faso and all that. They're in that region.
right,
And so
exactly.
all of a sudden they got this is what's being reported. I don't know if it's true or not, that they stroked some kind of deal. All of a sudden, why is everybody in the Congo? You would think they've exhausted the resources there the way that Nepal, I forgot his name, from way back when up until now, they're still uh, getting resources out of the Congo. And now all of a sudden, this is my first time hearing about the United States, at least openly talking about getting resources from the Congo.
Exactly. Right. They getting ready to tell. I mean, if it don't come, if the Lord of hosts don't come out, they getting ready to seriously attack Africa, especially that Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, because this out of hand. Like I said, look at this Tory on Russian TV talking about them, and he got all this attention on him, and now he's on Russian TV talking down in the U.S. and France, and then go to the mind of a racist. He's violent. Okay.
So Shalom, there was a I forgot the guy's name off the top of my head, but it was a guy on YouTube and a professor. He was part of the Black Panthers, I think, but he was talking about the Great War against Africa that was never told. That before it was between
The mic. Okay, something happened to the mic. When we come back, we'll finish that conversation. We're gonna start reading out of the book of Habakkuk.
you're about.
Yeah, your
Can
mic
you
had
hear?
went out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It just
I was
came
just.
back.
I'm sorry. Somebody must was calling me. I was talking about there was this professor. I think it's Professor Small. That was talking about the Great War against Africa. There was a systematic attack by the West on Africa,
Right.
but you don't never hear about it between World War I, World War II. That the great wars that actually have occurred have been over Africa, but they don't never talk about it like that. So
Exactly.
when
Right.
you talk about what's coming, the Great War is Africa and all of its resources, but they never talk about it. And the other part I was saying, if I don't know if y'all heard me or not, was when you look back and see when the colonization of Africa took place, is all around the same time. But you
Exactly.
never hear about it being colonized as at one time. You just hear like France had this and Great Britain at that, but they all attacked at the same time, and then they came together and divided up the countries as to who's going to have what, and that was what the Second World War was about.
Right, and it's being exposed now with these African nations claiming they independence or fully independence by taking back their mines and their gold and their minerals. And now we were just looking at the money that's being generated over a 2 and 3 month period. Is
Right,
that's what they've been getting.
right, for
So
years.
yeah, for years, right? And the whole reason why they can come on television showing all these little kids all over the place with big bellies because they didn't rob them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, ain't that something?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're gonna go to our back. Anybody got anything else you want to talk about? Okay, we go to back of AJ, you want to read chapter 1? We got 3 chapters we're going to read.
Yes, sir. Shalom. Habakkuk, Habakkuk's cry to the Lord, the burden which Habakkuk the prophet did see. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Even cry unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Why doest thou show me iniquity, and cause me to behold grievance? For spoiling and violence are before me, and there are that raised up strife and contention. Therefore the law is slack, and judgment doeth never go forth. For the wicked doeth compass around the righteous. Therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. Behold, yea, among the heathen, in regard and wonder marvelously. For I will work a work in your days which you will not believe, though it be told to you. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Their horses are swifter than the leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar. They shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. They shall come off of violence. Their faces shall sup up as the east wind, and they shall gather the captivity as the sand, and they shall scoff at the kings, and the princes shall be a scorn unto them. They shall deride every stronghold, for they shall heap dust and take it. Then shall his mind change, and he shall pass over and offend, imputing this his power onto his God. Verse 12. Art thou not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die, O Lord, that hast ordained them for judgment, and Almighty God, thou hast established them for correction. Thou art of pure eyes than to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. Wherefore lookest upon them that deal treacherously, and holdest thy tongue when the wicked devoureth the man that is more righteous than he, and makest men as the fishes of the sea, as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. They take all of them with the angle. They catch them in their net and gather them in their drag. Therefore they rejoice and are glad. Therefore they sacrifice onto their net and burn incense onto their drag, because by them their portion is fat and their meat plenteous. Shall they therefore empty their net and not spare continually to slay the nations? Oh, and that's the end of verse 1, the end of chapter 1, sir.
Okay, you got any comments on it?
Well, just with Brother Leonard, we was talking about this the other day. How people don't know what salvation is. And so in verse 2, when it says, "O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear, even cry unto thee of violence, and you will not save." Because the Israelites, when we're in captivity, we need to be saved from the violence that goes on.
Exactly. Right. And then, like I was saying, look at verse 6, right? I was saying we don't put these in the time frame when these prophets, what they're talking about and what's going on at the time when they wrote this. But verse 5, it puts it in context. It says, verse 6, "For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans." Who is that?
That's the second beast, right?
That's the Babylonians, ain't it?
Right.
Chaldeans.
Oh, that's the
So
first one. sir.
Right. So Isaiah, like I was saying, and when you go to the New Testament, everything these people got in the New Testament, they got it from the Old. So remember, JC's supposed to be sending the prophets out. I mean, the apostles out 2 by 2, right?
Right.
Okay. So we know Jeremiah prophesied that the Chaldeans was coming, right?
Yes, sir.
So here we go. Rebecca, they both existed at the same time. So Rebecca telling you the same thing. I'm gonna read verses 5 and 6. Behold, ye among the heathen, and regard the wonders marvelously, for I will work a work. See that? I will work a work in your days which will not be believed, though it be told you. For lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land and possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. So go to Judah. Remember, see what he just said? I'm gonna do a work that ain't gonna be believed. So the Syrian army is the greatest army, biggest army ever lived. So Nebuchadnezzar was a nobody, and so he called all these countries, all those we'll be looking at in Isaiah. He sent letters to all them countries to send soldiers to help him fight against the Assyrians. And when the Assyrians came, they came to fight. Nobody went and helped them. So they thought Nebuchadnezzar was gonna get crushed. But he just said right here, for lo, verse 5, behold, ye among the nations, and regard and wonder marvelously, for I will work a work your days which you will not be believed, though it be told you. Nobody thought Nebuchadnezzar was gonna win. But Lord of hosts went there, him and those 7 angels. And they annihilated the Syrian army. And that's what brought Nebuchadnezzar up. And then once he did that, that's when Nebuchadnezzar, like he just said right in 6, for lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land. So he coming to get everybody that didn't respond to that letter he sent out. All that's in the book of Judas. And that's what you read when he says, woe to Moab, and woe to Ammon, and woe to all these different countries, because Nebuchadnezzar, he done set them up. And Nebuchadnezzar coming for vengeance. Israel included. That's what Habakkuk telling you. Israel included. I'm gonna read verse 7. It says, they are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment, see that? Because they didn't respond. And their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Their horses also are swifter than the leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves, and their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from afar, and they shall fly as the eagle that hastens to eat. And they shall come all for violence. Their faces shall sop up as the east wind, and they shall gather the captivity as the sand. So there it is. So he called the Chaldeans. First of all, he went and did Nebuchadnezzar a favor first by knocking off the Assyrian army. Then he brought him for judgment, like you just read. He used the Chaldeans for judgment. That's what we're looking at. So Habakkuk had to exist at the same time Jeremiah exists, because both of them was prophesying the Chaldeans coming. You see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Chapter 2, you gonna read that, Joyce?
Yes, sir. Chapter 2. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long? And to him that layeth himself with thick clay. Shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwelleth therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Thou shalt consult shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and has sinned against thy soul. Verse 11, for the stone shall cry out of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. Behold, is it not of the Lord of hosts that the people shall labor in the very fire, and the people shall weary themselves for very vanity? For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and makest him drunken, also thou mayest look on their nakedness. Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spying shall be on thy glory. For the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee, and the spoil of beasts, which made them afraid, because of men's blood, and for the violence of the land of the city, and all that dwelleth therein. 18. What profit the graven image, that the maker thereof have graven it, the molten image, and a teacher of lies, that the maker of his work trusted therein to make dumb idols? Woe unto him that saith to the wood, Awake, to the dumbest stone, Arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. But the Lord is in the holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. That was chapter 2 of Habakkuk.
Okay, got any comments on that?
Yes, sir. The way, starting from chapter 1 leading into chapter 2 here, what I take from it is how God is showing the people, again, if we just relate this to the beginning to now, it's and I know this is before, but to now, it looks like that God's not doing anything, but he is. He's always doing something, and you may not see it right then and there, but it will prevail, because all of this that he's woeing to these people, they're not getting away. There are some verses that say that the wicked can inherit the earth and do all of these things, but it always comes back to God's prophecy, and God always prevails. Shalom.
Right, like we see in chapter 1 how all through scriptures we see that it's the Lord of hosts. He tells us in Isaiah in Deuteronomy 32 that he make alive, he kill, he raise kings up, bring kings down. And we see it right here. He went and built Nebuchadnezzar, brought him here, and then in the first part of chapter 2, he's telling you that, yeah, he's going to come, but after he finished doing what he's going to do, he's going to punish him. And then in verses 18 and 19, 20, I thought that stuck out, which says, what profit the graven image? Okay, keep JC in mind, because he's a graven image. What profit the graven image that the maker, see that? So Esau made JC. So what profit the graven image that a maker thereof have graven it, the molten image, and the teacher of lies, that's Esau all day, that the maker of his work trusted therein to make dumb idols, right? 19, woe unto him that saith to wood, JC, wood and stone, the cross, right? Says, woe unto him that saith to wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach, right? JC teaching in the temple, okay? Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. JC, a figment of Esau's imagination. 20, but the Lord, you see that? Our God, like I said, nobody seemed to know, but the Lord is our holy, the Lord is in his holy temple in Jerusalem, right? Let all the earth keep silent before him. That's our dilemma right there. We're not trusting in the Lord. We ain't understanding what Habakkuk, what he was just told Habakkuk, our God. He in his temple. He's not laid over with gold and silver. He's the living God. And he got a temple in Jerusalem. Okay, and we ain't getting that. Okay. So with that being said, anybody got any comments?
Shalom. Listening to this, the other thing that brings to mind is that the whole idea, what I think a lot of this is about, is the world is mad and jealous, and Esau are upset that God made our God made a covenant with Abraham, and
Right.
he said that he would be their God. It reminds me of today when we say things like Black Lives Matter or whatever, and somebody will come back and say, well, all lives matter. It's the same kind of premise to me, that while we don't know our God, is because we have been conditioned to believe in this inclusiveness, and that we're not separate or apart. There's nothing special about us.
Right.
Everybody got to be together, and that's what Jesus is supposed to represent. That
Right.
we're not special, and everybody's need to be included. And that's what, to me, fundamentally, that's what this is all about.
Right. And also they didn't put that spirit on us. That the spirit is on them because of who they are. But now that's over 2,000 years, 2,500 years, that spirit on us now, especially with television and all this today's technology. So we see over and over again the Most High got an order, but nowadays nobody go by the order. Y'all, we got the Lord of Hosts. Can't no man say that compare himself to Yahweh or compare himself to the Lord of Hosts. And then as they go down, you got the man. Then the women, you can't even begin to try to compare yourself to the man, because he got a role, the Lord of Hosts got a role, Yahweh got a role. You got to let them operate in their role. But they didn't diminish that. It's all about, I can do this, I can do that. If he done it, I can do it. He done it. So it ain't no more order no more. Even amongst, like, you got the Israelite man, just say he's a Levite. Then you got a Chinese, you got a German, you got a Frenchman. They ain't the same as an Israelite man. They ain't equal. But they didn't put that in everybody's mind that we equal. He says, I was looking in I read it all the time in I can't remember the book, but it's well, he says, he tells Jeremiah, I mean not Jeremiah, but Joshua, the high priest, when he told him it was time for them to go back and build a temple, He says, you're going to be around me and wonder that. Talking about the Levites in the temple. Me and wonder that. So he talking about Israelites. And then he had us separated. So Chinese, you know, and they getting the luxury today to be around us. But back in the day, he kept us separated. We were men wondered at. All they heard about us. They had no contact with us. And now all of a sudden, they got him at the bottom of the food chain. He don't know nothing. Okay? And that the rolled over, you know, everything. That man, that Israelite man that the Creator been dealing with forever, no longer respected. Okay? So with that being said, you're going to read chapter 3, Anitra? You want to read that?
Yes, sir. Habakkuk chapter 3. A prayer of Habakkuk the prophet upon Shigneah. O Lord, I have heard thy speech and was afraid. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known. In wrath, remember mercy. God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Selah. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his head, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. He stood and measureth the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills did bow, and his ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Was the Lord displeased against rivers? Was thy anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thy horses and thy chariots of salvation? Thy bow was made quite naked, according to the oaths of the tribes, even thy word, Selah. Thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. The deep uttereth his voice, and lifted up his hands on high. The sun and moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundest the head out of the house of the wicked by discovering the foundation unto the net, Selah. Thou didst strike through with his staves the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. The rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly. Thou didst walk through the sea with thine horses, through the heap of great waters. When I heard, my belly trembled, my lips quivered at the voice. Rottenness entered into my bones, and I trembled in myself, that I might not rest in the day of trouble. When he cometh up unto the people, he will invade them with his troops. Although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruit be in the vine, the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will joy in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, and he will make my feet like hinds' feet, and he will make me to walk upon mine high places, to the chief singer on my string instrument.
Okay, so we see right here, this is another example of Habakkuk is saying that even though drought and famine and pestilence come, he says it's 18, yet will I rejoice in the Lord. That's where we not at. It says, yet will I rejoice in the Lord, and I will joy in the God of my salvation. The Lord God is my strength, right? And he will make my feet as hinds' feet, and he will make me to walk upon mine high places. So that's what's supposed to be in your head at all times, no matter what's going on. That he's able to do that. And then that's going to be the end result. But another thing I want to shine a light on, because I don't know about anybody else on here, but you always see in the Psalms in a couple of places in the Tanakh where he says, especially David says, shine forth, right? He's telling the Lord to shine forth. Anybody remembers reading that?
Yes, sir.
He says, shine forth. Well, here goes your answer right here. Verse chapter 3, Habakkuk, verse 1. A prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet, upon Signac. O Lord, I have heard thy speech. I was afraid. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years. In the midst of the years, make known in wrath, remember mercy. Then here you go. 3, God, that's the Lord of hosts, come from Teman, right? So that's where Esau dwelled. That's the capital city of Edom. Come from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. That's where Sarah and them came from. Paran, right? So it says, the Holy One come from Paran, Selah. Here you go. His glory covered the heavens. This when he came forth. His glory covered the heavens, and the earth was full of his praise. And his brightness, they're going to shine forth. And his brightness was as the light. And he had horns come from out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went forth pestilence and burning coals, when coals went forth from his feet. So that's what David is talking about. And then we see the same thing with Lucifer, which is Samuel in the garden. That's what Eve was drawn to. It's called the shining one. That glow, that what was on him. So it says, she saw the tree was good for food to be desired. That's what the scripture's talking about, his appearance. Okay, so anybody got anything else on that? Chapter 3. Okay, I want to shine light on something else over in chapter 2. It says, I was telling you about how they took the stories in the Tanakh and they constructed the New Testament with it. Right here, verse 15, chapter 2 of Habakkuk, verse 15. Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him and make him drunken. Also, thou that may have thou look at thy nakedness. Being 16, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup, right? Check it out. The cup of the Lord's right hand. See that? The cup of thy Lord's right hand shall be turned down upon thee, and the shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. So this is the cup that's in Revelation. So it's in the Lord of hosts' right hand. Look at it, 16. Thou art filled with the shame for glory to drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand, see that? Which is indignation and fury. Verse 17, for the violence of Lebanon shall cover thee. So that's his indignation, the cup. So when they say that in Revelations, the cup gonna go out on the nations, is the Lord of hosts, not JC. Lord of hosts, the cup is in the right Michael right hand, which is his power when he's angry. Okay. Anybody got anything else on that? So anyway, yeah, somebody got something?
Yes, sir. If we go back to the book of Daniel's where you always go, but in verse 10, when it talks about chapter 10, verse 5, then I lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like a color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were there with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so they fell to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone and saw his great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. That again is the Lord of hosts revealing himself.
Exactly. And they took that same story in Acts with JC when Paul was on the road to Damascus, and remember JC appeared to him.
Yes, sir.
But the men that was with him, they ain't see him. Paul saw him. They got all that right there from what you just read.
Yes, sir.
Right. Exactly. And so, like I said, we know it in Yahweh because of he says arms and feet was like polished brass. But when you go to Ezekiel chapter 1, Yahweh don't have to, he's pure fire. Ezekiel said from his waist upward was pure fire, and from his waist down was pure fire. But the man that Daniel saw, he had his eyes was like lamps of fire, but he had a body. And so that's the whole reason why these men describe everything that they do. But we just read over it. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got anything? So somebody got a scripture they want to point out, we can read it and then we'll break it down.
Shalom.
Okay. All right.
In Ezekiel, sir, chapter, that's 46, chapter 46.
Okay.
Verse 14, and thou shalt prepare a meat offering for it every morning, the 6th part of an if, and the 3rd part of a hin of oil, to temper with the fine flour, a meat offering continually, a perpetual ordinance unto the Lord. Thus they shall prepare the lamb and the meat offering and the oil every morning for a continual burnt offering. Just those 2 verses right there, sir.
Yeah, that's an oblation. I talked about this a couple of months ago. It was oblation. You got 3 oblations that is a commandment from the Lord, that in the morning they have to do that, noon and evening. That evening before evening time. It's 3 oblations, and we see an example of that in Daniel. When Daniel had prayed, he fasted for 21 days, and then it says at the morning oblation, evening oblation. He was at the evening oblation, and all of a sudden, Gabriel showed up just when he was getting ready to do the evening oblation, and then that's what that's what Daniel was talking about when he says the abomination that maketh desolate. They took away that perpetual that you just read. If the whole time Israel was a nation that was happening 3 oblations every day to the Lord, and then when that's how they knew that it was over with, because of those oblations were cut. It's the oblations. See and that's how you know the Antichrist ain't no Antichrist coming. The temple that he said the Antichrist is whoever he is, he gonna stop that, and that's what Antioch Epiphanes did. He stopped those oblations. And that's where the abomination that make a desert come from.
Okay. Shalom. Yes, sir. And that seems to just start that New Testament going. Because if the oblations had continued, it would not be where we are today.
Exactly.
Shalom.
I mean, they caught up in a lie because of, like I said, in First Maccabees, those people that they saying the Maccabees supposed to be out of David lineage. Daniel, I just read where Daniel said the oblation was gonna cease. So Antiochus stopped the oblations, But right in the same book, in the Maccabees, Judas and these brothers, supposedly Maccabee brothers, they restarted their oblations. That's their way to pick it back up. When actually it was prophecy that already taken place when Antioch Epiphanes came and stopped the oblations. But when they got Hotel Records, they concocted JC. They had to find a way to make it look like it's continually going on. So they said that when the Maccabees came, they rededicated the temple. When the scriptures in Daniel says that the temple is going to be an abomination that maketh desolate, the land going to lay waste. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Right. So anybody else before we go? Okay. I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I see everybody on Tuesday night for our Israelite Advanced Bible Study. Shalom, shalom, and another shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.